Sweet. All right. We is live. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Minimize that.
Name that actor. That should really show your age if you're able to name that guy.
And I need to cut my beard.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You're ate up like a soup sandwich, soldier. All right. Guys, welcome back for another episode of Monday Motivation Live. Motivation Monday Live. Whatever. You guys get the point. The advantage of lives is there's unscripted. It's unedited. You get the real version of Trevor and I. So, that being said, I am joined.
Sure you want to do that with me?
Oh man, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm starting to have some.
That's all, folks.
Yeah, some seller's remorse here, buyer's remorse. But so welcome back again for another episode dos of the Motivation Monday Live, and as you well know, I'm joined by my co-host Trevor Neill. Yay! All right, just a reminder, every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to go live here on YouTube to set the tone for the week. Not with fluff, not with hype, but with truth, clarity, and a battle plan to attack your goals in your life with purpose. While this may be free to you, all that we ask is that you please share this video, share this channel if this impacted you and or got value from it, and if you got a little chuckle out of it as well, right? So please share it with your friends. We're here to create as big of an impact as we possibly can, to impact as many people as we can. So share this, please. That's the tuition of participating in these lives. Get some chuckles, get some value, and hopefully get a few tools in your tool belt to not just get through your day, but to get through your week. And if you haven't already, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button, wherever that is, either it's down there, up there, wherever, and just subscribe, hit that notification bell so that anytime that I post a video or we go live, you get that wonderful notification. So, friends, as of this recording, as of this live right now, we've down to 73 days of 2025. That's it. Just 20 or just 73. And it really just seems like we just welcomed 2025. So, and I know a lot of us are not really thinking of 2026 or like in the grind, either in our businesses or in our careers and our families and all of this stuff, right? But it's coming. Whether you're thinking about it or not, that sun is still coming up every single day. So now let's focus on what we're striving for by the end of 2026 and just attack it now. So that being said, I kind of already hinted at this, but Trevor, didn't we just have a conversation last week in our mastermind about 2026 and how we're showing up in that? We just talked about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, time flies. And like you said, 2026 will be here before you know it. And you kind of like not necessarily, set the terms like, hey guys, at that time we had 80 days left. What are we going to do? Like, how do you envision yourself to finish out the year? How do you envision your bank account? Blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people had some good answers. And for me personally, I don't want to look at it like a rat race. I look at it from a day-to-day perspective. I don't care if we have 80 days left or 180 days left. As long as I wake up and I'm doing my best to move that needle forward, I've succeeded. And what essentially I'm doing is I'm stacking days on days, winning days on days on days. So, and you have to, crawl an inch to get a mile. So that's essentially what I'm doing 100%. With my days.
100%. Yeah. Thanks for sharing it, man. You kind of remind me what you just said right now. I was listening to the sauna this morning to sweat my keister off because it's starting to get a little cooler down here in South Florida. It's starting to get below 90 degrees now. So you're wearing a hoodie. Here I am freaking in still in a t-shirts, all that good stuff. But I'm sitting in the sun, I'm listening to some content, and this guy was talking about stacking wins, kind of like what you were just describing there. And I love the visual perspective he had. He's like, you know what? Equate one day to a piece of paper, one single piece of paper, right? Just one piece of paper, that's not good. That's not much, right? Hardly has any weight, and there's really not much there. But you get a whole binder full of paper, whether that's 100 sheets, 300 sheets, 500 sheets. That adds some weight, right? Like now you've got some serious weight. There's like a lot there, and unfortunately, too many people attack the 1 or 2 days thinking they're going to get that one stack versus just stacking these small wins, right?
And really that effect goes back to the instantaneous lifestyle we live in now, especially with social media. And I talk about this all the time with Netflix, Amazon, hell, our smartphones. If we want something, information or instant gratification, we're prone to getting it. And it's not like that, with business or your life in general. You have to love the process.
Yes.
And a lot of people, especially kids, the new age, I say kids, 20 through 27. Yeah, I just dated myself. But that's all you see on Instagram or TikTok. They're renting Lambos, renting the mansions, and
you're talking about me now. No,
I just made $100,000 this month, and you could too. You just buy my course at $999.99.
Right.
But that's it's a shame. We're getting so far from the process to where we want things like that, and if we don't get things like that, we quit.
Yep, 100%. I'm reminded of a phrase that was said by Mike Tyson. When you're talking about do it like you love it. Do the things you hate like you love it.
Yeah.
Do the things that you hate as though you love it. Because, dude, you and I are no different, man. Do we love grinding up, early in the mornings and doing the things we've got to do? Hell no. Yeah. Mondays are the worst for me. For whatever reason, I have a hard time. For the last 2 weeks, I've been having a hard time sleeping because of some things I'm navigating in my personal life. But just Sundays in general are hard for me to go to sleep and then wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Do I feel like waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and to get my gym bag, drive over to the gym, and to crank and spank? No, I do not. But the health I want, the body I want, I want that more in this temporary feeling, this gratification, like, oh, I'll just sleep in for another 5 minutes, which turns into a half hour, and then turns into an hour, and then of course we feel like crap because we didn't fulfill the promises that we made ourselves, right? But one thing that we're talking about in that mastermind on Wednesday is I issued a challenge, and the challenge was simple, right? Anybody that's watching live, and please drop in the comments. I actually want some engagement here. I actually want to make sure that one, you can actually hear us and see us, and all these good things. But I want this to be a live experience. If you have questions or if this resonates, drop some fire emojis in there. Fire us up, because we're here to fire you up. But I'm the type of person that feeds off of energy, right? So let us know that you can see us and hear us, so that we just know that Trevor and I, we're just not talking to each other by ourselves. And but in the mastermind, I issued this challenge for everybody, myself included, right? Am I exempt from this? Is who is this person that you want to be by in the 2026, right? I'm not talking about end of this year. End of this year, we're not talking about end of this year, right? We're talking end of 2026. By end of the next year, what is it that you want to achieve, right? What is it that you want your bank account to look like? What do you want your relationships to look like? What do you want your business to look like? Your career? What do you want your body to look like? Whatever these answers are, right? Remind me of AI here in a moment, Trevor, because I just learned a very cool hack from Dan Martell. I was sitting on one of his calls and really kind of put things in perspective. But whatever these things are that you're envisioning, right? Whatever this health goal you're chasing, whatever this financial goal, career goal, business goal, it could be as simple as emotion goals. And that's one thing I cover with a lot of people now is that's one area that people tend to overlook is the emotional goals. You're probably thinking, Karl, what the hell are you talking about? Got you covered. What I'm talking about for emotional goals is for me, in my personal experience, I don't think in my life, in fact, I know for a fact, I have not experienced enough joy. Like I've had some good moments in my life, right? I've had some good, good laughs and so forth, but I never really had a lot of joy. And yes, I've had a lot of stuff in my life, right? I've had a shitty childhood. Who hasn't, right? I've had a shitty life in a sense of business and career and so forth. Yeah, who hasn't, right? But I could have just as easily take the time to experience joy, to be great. Like Trevor, you say this a lot, right? You know, every day when you wake up, be grateful for the fact that you can live, that you can breathe, that you can think, that you can do all these things we so freaking easily take for granted, right?
Exactly. I mean, it really, and I talk about this all the time, as you know, it's gratitude before when we wake up in the morning, before I pick up that phone and doom scroll or check my sales or whatever it may be. Man, I thank the Lord that I am alive for another day. I have my family, I have my health. And I always say I have a roof over my head, food in my belly, and
yes,
I'm able to turn on the faucet. Those three things alone, you're doing 80% better than the world.
yes, yes,
So, a
yes.
lot of people just take that for granted. And I didn't really hone in on gratitude until I think it was late last year sometime when I threw my back out in the pantry of all things. Yeah, reaching down
You're
for
really displaying your age right now, Trevor.
but I didn't throw it out, but I felt like a little pull. I was like, man, did I just pull my back out reaching for a donut? So as the day went on, man, I could like it progressively got worse. So I'm like, fuck. It got to the point the next day, like I couldn't walk. Like I could not walk. I was like, oh Christ, I slipped a disc. So I'm the last person to go to the ER, to the hospital.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll ride it out in bed one day. So pop some pain pills. And then the next day I'm still the same. So long story short, I got an injection. It wasn't a slip disc, but still I couldn't walk.
Oof.
Like literally I couldn't walk. I would freeze up and I would just drop down. It's crazy. And that alone, and I was sitting or laying in the bed. I'm like, wow, I can't walk. And walking, I just took for granted. Speaking, hearing, seeing, you think about the deaf mutes, the blind people. Man, that's when I really honed in on gratitude. So I kind of went out in left field there and steered it back.
That's okay though. We understand that you've got some back problems because you're old and all of that good stuff. But no, you hit the nail on the head, man. I mean, this is all part of what we want to experience, right? Like, what is the experience? What is the goals that you want to achieve by end of next year? For me, I'm putting more attention, as you all know, Trevor. Anybody that follows me personally, or it's in my ecosystem, I've been putting a lot of intentional focus into my health. I'm down almost over now 130 pounds.
Wow.
And dude, that's, for me, I kind of take that for granted because it took a while.
Yeah.
Right. But is this like, well, no, duh, because I follow the process, right? Like if I follow the process, the results are going to be inevitable. Now, am I going to get a win every single day? Nope. And I didn't get a win every single day.
You mean you just didn't get liposuction?
No, I didn't, man. But
you trusted the process. You trusted the process. You knew what to do, and you trusted the process. And look at you now.
Yeah,
you can fit in the screen.
Yeah, I can fit in the screen. I could probably fit in a Lamborghini now too. Because
you got two of them in your garage, so.
They're both Urises, man. I can fit in those. But whatever these answers are, right, to these questions that I have been posing, the things you've been talking about, Trevor, act like you're that person right now, right?
Mhm.
Don't wait till December 31st when New Year, new me, right? No bullshit. Throw that
Mhm.
outside the window. Throw that out there because that's not the mentality that winners have, that champions have, right? They say, no, you know what? Attack it now and carry that momentum into 2026. And this is, largely what we attacked on our mastermind last week. It's like, hey man, let's attack these things that you want. Not December 31st, not January 31st or January 1st, because guess what? There's people right now already attacking 2026, right? There's people already right now attacking well beyond 2026. But attack right now. Whatever, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel like you're ready or have enough or whatever you think you need. Just execute right now.
Yeah.
Right now. Anyways, so it's that simple. It's simple, but it's not easy, right? But if you operate as though you're that person right now, you're going to carry that momentum in 2026. You're going to have this momentum. You're going to have this confidence. And honestly, a lot of people are sleeping right now because they're so focused in Q4. They let off the gas. I'll wait till after, Thanksgiving, or I'll wait till after Christmas. I'll wait till after New Year's. People are out of the office. They don't want, no. You think, your competitors who want what you have right now, they're saying that? Nope.
Yeah.
No. They're out there right now stealing what they're looking at what you've got. Like, all right, how can I take what Trevor's got? How can I take what Karl's got? How can I take what, such and such has got?
Damn right they are.
Right? Yes.
I'm doing the same thing with them.
Right? Yes. And that's the game of winning.
Yeah.
It's not them personal. It's just the game of winning. You know what? We live in abundance. There's enough out there for all of us to win, but unfortunately, we just think we need that one more thing, just enough to take action, whether it's skills, knowledge, or information, or money, or what have you. So, anyways, let's get into today's theme because we're already at like 20 minutes, right? And somebody in the comments said, "Hey, I want to hear about this Dan Martell method, or what I heard from Dan Martell." So, if you're still hanging out, amazing. If not, well, watch the replay and I guess you'll hear it. But here's something that I learned from Dan Martell in one of his calls that really just blew me away, because we talked not just our masterminds but just in general, talking about visualizations. Say that 10 times fast. Anything more than 2 syllables, I'm a host. But he took visualization, right? Visualizing what it is that you want. It's crystal clear as you want. Whether it's material things, it's a happy family, thriving family, it's money, whatever those things are. Maybe it's health, man. Maybe you want to be shredded like you, Trevor. That's my goal. I want to be shredded and buff
maybe
like
5
you,
years
dude.
ago.
But jokes aside, write down these things that you want. Is it a Lambo? Is it a massive mansion here in South Florida? Is it whatever those things are? Write them down, crystal flipping clear, and tell ChatGPT to generate an image representing these things. Now, when I say developing image, I'm talking about an image with a picture you in it, where you're actually inside that experience, inside that image. Now, you want to talk about visualization, bro? Like I when I learned that, I'm like, oh smoke. So over the weekend, man, I've been like ChatGPT and I were best buds for the whole weekend, like jamming out. And man, I came up with some pretty man, if this stuff doesn't juice me up, then I've got to check my pulse, man, because it really helped me put in perspective. Like, really helped me visualize having that, right? Whether it's a happy family or it's having experiencing more joy, because most of my life I've taken my life too seriously. Like, I've taken myself too seriously, right? So be able to experience joy, to experience more happiness, to experience just to be more happy, to be content with things I've already accomplished in my life, right? Maybe it is to be able to fit in a Lamborghini Aventador, right? I mean, whatever. I can't fit in this thing still, too big. But when you put ChatGPT in your tool belt to actually say, hey, create an image with me either beside this vehicle or beside this house or on a beach with my family, whatever those things are, man, it'll generate the image. And dude, it's like, wow, it's like you already have it, right? And so now your brain's going to get to work of like, all right, this is what's now important to Trevor. This is now what's important to Karl. I need to look for ways of how we're going to make this happen, right? So, anyways, so Ted, I think it was him that actually put that in the comments. Hey, I want to hear about this, Dan Martell thing. That's
he actually just said, "What does your visualization look like?"
My visualization. That's a great question, man. So for me, what am I?
Did you already do it?
What's that?
Did you already input it into AI?
Yes, I did. Yeah, okay. I did. I spent the weekend doing that because the first, like, it was a series of things that you could do with AI. Like, if you don't follow Dan Martell, and Dan Martell, you're welcome, because this is part of my repayment to you. Maybe a fraction of it, because his following is a hell of a lot massive than mine, obviously. But he went into some uses of AI. By the way, where I was getting at is if you're not following Dan Martell for a variety of reasons, please follow him, because he's got some amazing content for uses of AI and buying back your time. But for me specifically, I've been finding a lot of value in how you can utilize AI beyond its, just chatting with ChatGPT, right? It's just way above that. But to answer the question for me is visualizing, a family compound, right? Visualizing what would it look like for me to actually have a family together for the rest of our lives. For anybody that knows me personally, I come from a very rough childhood. I really, by all stretch of imagination, I should not be here. Like, too many people could have said, "Oh, it's okay, Karl. We understand why you're not successful. You had an abusive child home. You had no present, family. This, that, and the other, right?" Well, for me, I want to change that. I want to change it in such a way where we are always together in some shape or form. So building a family compound where we've got, massive amounts of property where we can each have our homes, right? And be able to do the things. And thankfully, we all enjoy a lot of the same things, just being outside, enjoying, being on quads and motorcycles and those things. So having a picture resembling this really gave me goosebumps, right? Like, having a Lamborghini is not a big thing for me. Having a massive home, that's not a big thing for me, right? It's just not. Be able to impact people. That was the other thing. Staying on stage in front of 100,000 people, speaking life into people. That was a big thing for me. That is a big thing. I say was, but that is a big thing for me. Staying on stage to speak life into 100,000 different Karls, where it's Trevor's and Ted's and whoever, right? But stand on stage and be able to give that, give a talk to 100,000 people. That was another one for me. I'm not money driven. Now, of course, don't get me wrong. Anybody that says, money isn't happiness, I beg to differ on that. But, those are some of the ones for me, as well as achieving some health goals. I want to get below 13% body fat and be able to, throw around some weights. So having that visualization, and I'll keep the personal details out, but so those are some of the visualizations that I have for me. So by utilizing ChatGPT, and the more crystal clear you can make it, man, it's like it really puts things into perspective of your vision. It helps you visualize it. Like, if you can, the more you visualize it, the more your brain's going to look for opportunities to make it happen. Right? I mean, it's the RES at work, reticular activity system at full work. Right? So, anyways, so that being said, let's get into these themes, shall we? So today we're going to jam on purpose over hype. Because as you all know, Trevor, man, motivation fades. But purpose and what juices you, and that's what carries you. And this is something I learned the hard way from personal experience. I'm at level 47 now. I think I've learned a few things between motivation and purpose and all of that good stuff. Um, so when I say about motivation, right? Motivation, unfortunately, too many people, and I get it, right? It does get us started. It's like that espresso,
Mm-hmm.
and I love espresso. I hate the taste of it, but I love espresso. It doesn't make sense, does it? That's okay. But motivation is much like espresso. Man, it'll get you started. It'll get you started. It'll get you going. But man, after a while, it only gets you going for a little bit. Day one, day two, when you've got to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, the second day, the third day, it's like, bro, why am I doing this? Right?
And it's just, motivation is a good start, but I always say determination will get you there. Motivation is that big. There's actually a graphic, I used to see it all the time, where motivation, it's like a flat line. You'll have the motivation hill.
Mm-hmm.
Then it goes down smaller and smaller and smaller. But determination, you'll have it, it's consistent. So
Yeah.
just like anything, gym, business, personal life, consistency is the key. And with consistency comes determination. And of course, you said it, you don't feel like waking up every day at 4, but you do it. And progress is going to come in the dark times,
Ooh,
personal life,
yes.
business. And I always say growth and comfort do not go together. So
Like
when
oil
you're
and water.
uncomfortable, when you're doing uncomfortable shit, you are growing, whether it be in your business or in your personal life. Now, maybe you need to have that conversation with your wife or your children that you've been neglecting. Man, there's your emotional intelligence. You're growing in there.
Mm-hmm.
Business, maybe you need to pick up the phone and start dialing more suppliers or more customers or whatever.
Yeah.
Growth right there in your business. So it's
Yeah.
the
100%.
shit that we don't want to do. Like growth comes in the dark times when your back is to the wall, like it's you against the world.
Yeah. 100%. I agree. In the other side of motivation, what is motivation? Motivation's what? It's emotion. It's a feeling,
Yeah.
right? Dude, emotions and feelings, they come and go, right? And this is why so many people miss the mark because they feel like they have to have the motivation in order to execute, right? They feel like they have to be motivated, like they have to be David Goggins. Everybody thinks that David Goggins is super motivated every flipping day. Joe Rogan, motivated every single day. Joe Rogan's, or not Joe Rogan, but David Goggins, like, bro, dude, do you think I want to get up and run 20 miles or 30 miles?
Yeah.
No. I do it because if I don't, I'm afraid I'm going to go back to being that fat kid. And
Yeah.
I am not going to go back to that fat kid. So that's why I continue to chase it down every single day, regardless if I feel like it or not. Like we're emotional creatures.
Mhm.
95% of everything we do is governed by how we show or how we me rewind a little bit. 95% of what we do is made up by emotions. Simple as that, right? And so if we learn how to control our emotions and focus on what we can control, our thoughts, actions, beliefs, and so forth, we have a better chance at winning, right? I'm not saying being disciplined robots. I'm not saying you're gonna have to be, you know, robot every single day. That's just not gonna happen. Sorry, bro. And there are times you can enjoy a piece of pizza. There is times you can enjoy some ice cream, or there is a time where you could take a day off and go to the beach or just enjoy some family time, right? I'm not saying every single flipping day. Can you overdo it? Sure. But what's the likelihood of that? Not happening, right? Goggins, Jocko, all of them talk the same thing. So this is why it's so important to have your purpose dialed in so your purpose carries you. Like, why is it that you're waking up at 4 o'clock? Why is it that you're having a smile on dial to get more clients, to get more suppliers, to get whatever, or to grow in these different areas, right? That right there is going to push you when the alarm clock hits 4 o'clock. Hello, at 4 o'clock in the morning for me, I reminded, okay, I'm doing this because I don't want to be a burden on my kids, right? Because I'm, nothing against her, but our mother-in-law with us. She's been with us for over 20 years now. Her health is deteriorating, and we're the ones taking care of her because she didn't take care of her health. She was all about the sweets and all about just eating shit for most of her life, and it's like, that was me for the rest of my life. And for the first half of my life, I could get away with it, right? Because being military, defense contractor, I was, dude, you know this, man. I mean, we lived an active lifestyle, right? But now it's like, man, we're having to take care of her, and I don't want to be a burden on my kids and have, them take care of us because I failed to take care of my health. And plus, dude, this is why business owners. I'll love to get your take on this, Trevor. This is why elite athletes, anybody that takes athletics seriously, right? You don't have to be an elite athlete, but anybody that takes fitness, athletics seriously is why they're so much more effective in every other area of their life because they apply those same disciplines, right? The same disciplines where they feel like they're showing up or not into the other areas because they realize that, man, the better I feel physically, it just carries over, right? Into everything else. It just spills over. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on like what athletics, and I want to use like jujitsu as an example. Um, Most of you know that I'm an active jujitsu practitioner, and the reason why I love jujitsu, it's a strange addiction. Okay, so it number one, it's a phenomenal workout, and number two, it puts you in difficult situations. It keeps you calm in difficult situations as you progressively continue on class and move upper belts and whatnot. But and it just really big picture is discipline. Showing up,
Mm.
getting your ass kicked, keep going, and in your business, keep showing up, keep failing. Evidently, you'll fail less and less and less, and you'll be successful. See, a lot of people stop the gym during their free week trial. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
stop the business during that first failure. So
Mm.
it really boils down to the big picture here is just discipline and consistency.
Yeah. Where they feel like showing up or not, right?
Exactly. Dark times. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
Well, it's not a matter of answering. It's just more of
yeah,
perspective,
more.
right? I mean, but when you go to the gym and you give it your all, right? Man, you just carry yourself differently throughout the rest of the day because you didn't want to go to the gym, but you did
Mhm.
it, right? You follow through on the promises you make to yourself, but you just carry yourself differently, knowing that you fulfilled the promise to yourself. You're able to think differently because you're taking better care of yourself. Your brain is braining better, your tongue is tonguing better. That didn't come out right, but screw it. It's Monday. But you're just able to show up much more better when you're taking care of your health because you just feel a lot more dialed in, right? It gives you more you're able to show up better as a spouse, as an entrepreneur, as a coach. You need these roles that you serve. And this is why purpose has got to be the anchor in everything that you got to do or everything
Mhm.
you do. And, we're talking about purpose here, guys. We're not talking about anything like grandiose thing, magnificent type of thing. No, 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 no. As simple as this could be, hey, you know what? Maybe the purpose is simply as being the most amazing parent you could be for your kids because you didn't have that when you were younger, right? Being the parents that you wish you had, or being that spouse. We often think there has to be this massive, grandiose thing, and it's just not the case. And that was a big perspective shift for me. Is that I thought it had to be this big, big, magnificent thing that they're going to build the statue for. And gosh, I hope they don't ever build a statue. That would be horrible. But nonetheless, it doesn't have to be these magnificent things. Or, it does change in seasons. I mean, it's a case in point for me. Like, most of my kids are out of the house now, and that's been a hard event for not just for me, but for my wife and I, because most of our whole entire lives up until that point, we're tied up into our kids. And you've got kids. I'm sure you
Mhm.
know what I'm talking about. Carrying them to all the events and
Yeah.
being there for them, being there, all or it's all about them for the
Yeah.
most part, right? And we also went wrong with that, and that's for another conversation. But it does change in seasons, right? It does, and when we feel the emptiness, this means we have to go back, reevaluate. Like, okay, there's been a shift in the winds. Where is the shift going, right? And it could be is once you're done taking care of your kids, it could be is like maybe your shift is now is helping other parents getting their shit together because, as you know, new
Ubiquitous.
parenthood don't come with a manual,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but
It doesn't.
I know, right? I thought I could chat GPT it way out, but you
That's what
know,
your kids will be doing when they're parents.
oh, I know you're 100% correct, and that's actually scary, bro.
They'll probably
You
be
know,
walking around with computer chips in their head.
yeah, that's funny, or that's true.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, we just gotta understand real success is when our actions are driven by excuse me, by mission, not by mood. I love what Lilo Hermosa says. Screw your mood, follow the plan, like follow the process, right? The more you focus on that, the more you're gonna win, or the more days you're gonna win. All right, you're not going to win every day, but if you focus on that philosophy, screw your plans. She does it more explicit, and I think YouTube might shut me down if I start dropping f bombs here. But so I'm lowering it from whatever rating to PG rated.
Favorite word.
Screw your mood, follow plans, right? Or follow the plans, follow the process over feelings. In fact, that's one of the things that one of my coaches, Ben Newman, constantly says: focus over feelings. No, that's neat. Process over feelings, right? So, trust me, everyone's had those days where we wake up empty, right? Everybody does. Everybody's had those,
Mhm.
So, most people think they've lost motivation. This is not lost motivation. It's just they've lost the meaning, right? They've lost that purpose. It's been a shift in winds, you know.
Mhm.
Um, anyway, so let's so some guys, if you're still watching or if you're still tuning in, amazing, thank you. But drop some questions or comments, especially if it has anything to say what we've been talking about, or if you're following us for a while. We're an open book, right? So if you're not familiar with us, feel free to ask any questions at all. We're really just two simple dudes. At least I like to think we're simple dudes. Although sometimes we overcomplicate the shit out of stuff. Get off overcomplicated, Ivan. But drop a question. We're here to not just to speak life and to add some value, but also ask questions. And guys, too, if you're not comfortable asking questions, like, I get it. Sometimes, we may not be comfortable in dropping questions in chat. Email them to me, right? Email the questions. If you're navigating an issue, if you're going through a business, something in your business, your personal life, and first and foremost, I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not a therapist, right? I tell all my clients this, like, first and foremost, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor or marriage, especially when it comes to marriages. However, if you need some advice, if you, I get how frustrating it is to try to do life, figuring these shit out on your own. And trust me, I did it for a long time in my life. So if you're not comfortable and blast it in the comments or share it in the comments, shoot me an email. Because as you're going to see here in a moment, I'll actually ask the question that you asked me, and I'll do it anonymously if you want me to. But I'll ask the question here, and we'll answer it. Both Trevor and I will answer it from our different perspectives. So that way you get two perspectives and not just ChatGPT giving you a non-personalized response. But we'll answer those questions here in a moment. Um,
But
but
but honestly, Karl, I would say you mentioned you're not a therapist, but feel honored and feel privileged that people come to you with those specific questions because
oh yeah,
there's some
100%.
way somehow a trust uh, that you have an aura of or whatever.
Mm.
So
people told me I have an aura. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I get the same thing too. I mean, I help as many people as I can. And if I
Like,
can't help them, I usually know someone who can. So
yeah,
my Rolodex runs pretty deep.
nah. I hear you. Yeah, thanks for sharing it, man. Well, let's dive into a few some content here. We'll spark some questions. We'll question Trevor. I'll start by asking you a question. Um, in
Is this a
terms
job
of
interview?
yeah, it is a job interview, right?
Oh,
It
sorry.
is. It's 100% because
If you're
this is
paying,
going
I'm
to
playing.
But no, we're going to go back and forth, answer some questions because I love to hear your perspective on some of these things, some of which we might have already jammed on,
Okay.
but we're kind of putting a spotlight on some of these things, especially when it comes to motivation and purpose. Because let me talk to purpose here for just a moment here. Purpose doesn't have to be anything that you're good at. It doesn't have to be anything that makes you money. Oftentimes people think that has to generate money, right? And that's more like the Japanese ikigai model, where I think compasses 4 circles, right? What you're good at, what you're skilled at, what the need is, and if you can monetize it, right? I think that's the 4. Maybe it's the 5th circle. That's the ikigai. I'm typically talking about this fulfillment where you lay your head down, you've made an impact, you made a difference, you feel good. I'm not saying your day went good. I'm not saying you didn't have any adversity. I didn't say you didn't get your nuts kicked or any of this. I'm just merely saying that you went to bed knowing that 1, you gave it your all, and 2, you feel fulfilled. You don't feel empty. Like, guys, a lot of my background. I achieved a crap ton of success in e-commerce, built some amazing businesses, and so forth. Blah 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 blah. On paper, I should have been wildly happy, right? No, I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. 1, I was grinding for the wrong reasons. I was grinding to try to prove somebody wrong who I couldn't prove wrong. I mean, that's another story. But I was not happy. I was not happy. And when I say happy, I'm talking about fulfilled. Like, I did not feel fulfilled. So when I'm talking about purpose, I'm talking about things that juice you, not things that you're good at, not stuff that you can that you can make money with, and all of this, things that fulfill you. It could be as simple as, man, look at what's going on in our society. And I'm not bringing politics by any stretch of imagination. I don't care. That's not for this conversation. But look what's going on in our society. What out there that there's a need out that you can serve that would actually fulfill you, right, wrong, or indifferent, right? Where when you went to bed, you're like, man, I feel good. And you wake up the next day, ready to crush it because you are ready to attack your purpose. You feel that you're tuning into what God's put into your chest. You're not feeling this nudge. You're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, like I did for several years, right? Like, I started doing this over 5 years ago. But this isn't for me because I wasn't good at it, right? At least I think I was. Maybe I still suck, but I actually started this mission over 5 years ago. So again, I ask, and we'll go through the inner workings here in a moment when I'm talking about purpose and chasing your purpose. And by the way, purpose, when I'm talking about purpose, guys, I jammed this hard into this program I've created. It's a live 5-day experience, 5-day unstoppable challenge. It's right here in the right there. And it's also going to be in the show notes or in the description as well. The link will be there. But we jam into this hard on day 3 of the 5-day unstoppable challenge because this really is going to help you show up. This is going to help you, carry the torch on days you don't feel like showing up, right? So, this is, again, a live 5-day experience with me, yours truly, where we jam for 5 days, going through soup to nuts. The very same process I guide my one-on-one clients through through the 5-step process to become unstoppable. So, nonetheless, all right, Trevor.
Uh-oh.
You're
What's my purpose?
No. Why do you think people chase motivation instead of purpose? Love to get your input.
That's well, I think how I want to structure that question is motivation is kind of like instantaneous. So they're chasing that. And then purpose is more of the process.
Yep.
So that's purpose is not sexy. Motivation is.
Yep.
So if I can, not rejuvenate, but kind of get going just off of motivation and not purpose. And it falls back to the society we live in today. And that's what I talked about, an instantaneous one where people want it like this. So that's why I think people chase motivation instead of purpose, because it's more process driven. And motivation is more like, okay, I can get it now. Instantaneous. So
that's great perspective for sure. And one thing I'll share alongside with that, to kind of summarize that, is motivation is emotion based, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's loud, it's exciting, but it's also temporary. It's much like lighting a match, or getting a shot of espresso. Bam, you're gonna feel great. You're gonna feel like doing it in that moment. But when you stop chasing the motivation, you stop chasing the dopamine hits and everything else, and you start relying on the systems, right? Because the problem is feelings don't last, right? Man, one day we could feel amazing on top of the world. We're like, man, we're up here. This is our life. And the very next day you wake up, you're like, bam, you're down here. Like, man, this is my life.
Yeah.
And we often, we're in this, I say often, we're all in this roller coaster. Bam, 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 bam. One day we're going to feel like showing up. The next day we're not going to feel like showing up. And we allow our actions to, replicate however we feel, right? Or dictate how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is why purpose isn't sexy, right? It's not, because it's boring. You're going to have to do things that you hate like you love it. You're going to have to focus. You're going to have to pull yourself out of the mud, right? And if you're somebody who is so used to relying on your emotions, so used to doing what you want, when you want, and so forth, it is hard. It is. But I'm telling you, it is so worth it when you can just focus on the systems and disciplines necessary to achieve, right? And this is why purpose, it's rooted in identity, right? It's who you are, not how you feel. But yeah, that's a great perspective. So what's one thing, Trevor, that helps you realign when you start drifting? Well, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I actually got this from you, the 5-second rule or the 5-second method.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that's something I've really been implementing. Say like I'm doing stuff around the house. I'm like, oh, let me sit down for a minute and doom scroll on TikTok, go down this TikTok rabbit hole. And then I'll realize, okay, I need to be doing this or that, but I don't want to. So I go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I get up and I do it. And that came from Mel Robbins, really, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So Mel Robbins is a phenomenal speaker. And I think she was going through a divorce, or one of her children died or something. This was pre-COVID. And she was an alcoholic. And she just couldn't get out of bed. So once she got out of bed, it felt like, that was a win for her. So she just came up with this theory, 5 seconds. She knew she had to get out of bed. So she's just laying there. Okay, I got to get out of bed. Countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And she got out of bed. Yeah. And it started with that. So it's like losing weight. If you're drastically obese, walk around the block. Those walks will turn into runs. Those runs will turn into a gym membership. That gym membership will turn into an eating plan. And all of a sudden you're the hot dad at the water park.
That is true.
Yeah,
That is
so
true.
it's just yeah, the 5 second rule has just really, because we all know what we need to be doing.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm not saying don't take a break or don't shy away from things, but you know in your mind when you're slacking off or not.
Mm-hmm. 100%. No, I agree. And that's the toughest part, right? I think that is, at the end of the day, is the toughest part, is because we oftentimes have, or actually not oftentimes, we have to look ourselves in the mirror, and a lot of times we don't like to hear the answer, right? Like, you hear people constantly say, "Oh my gosh, Carl, I'm just so busy. I'm just so busy." All right, and every entrepreneur I've worked with, right, they say the same thing. "Oh my gosh, Carl, I'm just so, I feel like I don't have any bandwidth. This and this." Like, okay, cool. Let's go through an audit. How are we spending our time? How much time are you spending on Netflix,
Mhm.
or scrolling on TikTok or YouTube? Unless it's my content, of course you've got to pass. But jokes aside, how much time are we actually spending on things that's moving our life forward? Right? This is so many areas. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. It could be a stay-at-home mom or a dad, or if you got an amazing career, you still have to focus on things that will move your life forward. It's in your health. It's in your relationships, orientation, right? Hence why I've created the hero code, so that we can put equal focus, or putting
Mhm.
points on the board intentionally to keep moving our life forward. So here's a question I'll ask myself,
That's
right?
I want to jump in there for a
Yeah,
second. So I was actually reminded of a story, or a story came to my mind. 2 years ago, I was at the Proven conference, and a gentleman came up to me and started asking me questions like, "Man, I just can't get over, I think it was like $5,000 a month in sales. I really want to quit my job and I want to spend more time with my kids." So I started asking him simple questions. Okay, kind of like, what's your pain points? And I got to what, obviously he still had his day job. Okay, what are you doing after your day job? Oh, I'm running the kids' soccer practice. Okay, which is fine, parent
sure.
life. What are you doing on Saturday? What are you doing on your downtime off, when the kids are home? Oh, me and my wife, we like to watch this Netflix series or this Prime series. I was like, okay, I think his name was John. I was like, John. And I started getting not only the Netflix series, but other excuses from him as well. I was like, John, you see where I'm going with this? Okay,
Yeah,
if we want to go above and beyond $5,000 a month, it's going to take some sacrifice on your part.
yeah.
You think Ray Kroc was just, hanging out waiting on the McDonald's brothers? No.
Think he's a crock of crap?
But
Yeah.
he shook his head. Yeah, yeah, you are right. So I guess some people just need to call them out on their shit, really.
Well, it's about putting a spotlight on these things, because sometimes we just, either one, we don't want to see it. We put our heads in the sand. We're the ostrich, and we think that things are just going to naturally happen for us, right? If we just show up each day, things are either one, somebody's going to save us, or two, somebody's going to build us a table for us, and that's just not the way life is. We have to build our own table. We have to go save ourselves. Nobody's going to freaking do it for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, so you know, here's a question I'll ask myself. How can someone simplify their purpose instead of overcomplicating? And I think I really want to touch on this, because this is an area that too many people, myself included, for the longest time can do. You can overcomplicate this,
Yeah,
overthink it.
you can overthink it. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But this is talking about simplifying it, right? Purpose doesn't have to be, as I mentioned, doesn't have to be this big, grand, monumental, world changing mission. You don't need to quit your job and go build a nonprofit to have a purpose, right? And I'll tell a story that with a client. I actually did an in-person session with a client, because he was having this problem. He's like, Carl, man, dude, we're good, right? Like, financially, we have everything we need. you know, I don't need a Lamborghini. I don't need a big old mansion. We're good. Like financially, we're good, but I'm not motivated. See, motivated to keep going. I'm like, okay. I'll get to the story here in a moment. Just kind of set the stage, right? But you don't need to quit a job and go build a nonprofit. That's not necessary unless you're, Bezos or whatever, right? You've got the liquid means to do it. Then by all means, but hardly that doesn't hardly apply to anybody. And plus, I don't want to be responsible for somebody saying, Karl told me to go quit my job. And now I'm responsible for, you know, divorces and bankruptcies and everything. That's not what I'm saying, folks. So please, that's not what I'm saying at all. But understand, despite what we may think, despite the common belief, purpose lives in the ordinary, right? Not extraordinary, but in the ordinary through extraordinary actions, consistent actions. It is the person who decides. My family will never question if I showed up for them, right? It's in the business owner who says, I'm going to build something my kids are proud of, my wife is proud of, right? The problem is we overcomplicate purpose because we think it has to look impressive. Impressive to who? Right? And myself included, right? I thought I had to be something impressive. Like it just had to be this impressive thing, whether it was a number or it was a house or it was a Ferrari or Lambo or whatever, right? But the simpler it is, the stronger your direction becomes, right? If your purpose can't fit on a sticky note, then it's honestly too complicated. Seriously, if it cannot fit on this, and by the way, it's my daughter's driver's license number, but if it can't fit on that, then it is too complicated. If you can't tell me in a sentence or two what your purpose is, what God's put you on this planet for in the season of your life, then my man, my dude, my lady, my dudette, whoever I'm speaking to, you're overthinking it, you're overcomplicating it. It just merely, guys, it can be simple as this: to leave my home with strength and love, to turn pain into purpose by helping others rise. Guys, that statement alone can apply to so many people. But we often think our pain disqualifies us from that. Like we think that our pain and our stories and shit we've been through as a child or things we've been through disqualifies us because we're damaged and we're not qualified to help other people. Bullshit. In fact, that's what makes us qualified. Right? Like Trevor, who would you rather work with if you're going to the gym, right? If you're looking for a personal fitness trainer and you're going to the gym and you talk to one dude, you're like, man, bro, dude, I've never been fat. I've been ripped. I've had it kind of easy, blah, blah, blah. Versus another guy who's like, bro, dude, I used to be 360 pounds for years. I've learned the disciplines and he dropped weight. He actually kind of looks better than the other dude, but he understands everyday life. He understands what, going to weddings, birthdays, all these things, what life entails, right? Who would you rather go to?
Well, before you gave me examples, I would have said you. Well, I guess you would be the later one. So I would go with the later one because he's process driven. And the rip one's probably juicing up in the men's room.
That's probably true. That's probably true. But the thing, you're right. But aside from that, he knows what it's like. There's a lot more relatability there.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot more relatability because he understands what you've been through, what you've gone through. He can already predict, right? Like, okay, in a week or two, you're going to feel like the first week, you're going to feel like shit because of X, Y, and Z. You're going to feel sore. You're not going to blah, 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 right? He knows these things. Hey, when you go to the birthday next week, it's okay to have a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Right? But as soon as you get back home, lock back in. Because he understands, right? I mean, it's the same thing. If I'm going to go I actually do have a personal trainer, and that was one of my first things I looked at, right? I want somebody who's don't know what it's like to bend the other dude, right? Yeah. Or the other lady, And again, if you're listening to this, please, your story could be the very story that changes somebody else's life, right? Every single one of us, Trevor, myself, all of us have an amazing story, let that, be your light. And I would be highly inclined. See, I don't know anything about anybody that's watching, but one thing I will say that I know about you, there is something deep down that's actually pulling you in the direction. You're being ignoring it because you're scared. You're scared of judgment. You're scared of what people are going to say. Fuck them. There we go. Sorry, YouTube. But seriously, if I get freaking banned, sorry, not sorry. But seriously, people are waiting for us to show up because they need our impact in life. So if you're that person who's had a very hard life story, and there's a lot of people that come to mind who has, and a lot of them are not relying on a gift. God called us to utilize our resources, to be a good steward of our resources. Hello, he's not talking about just finances. He's talking about your story, your gifts, your adversities, everything you've been through. You've got to be a good steward of that too. I'll get off my soapbox. Somebody needed to hear that.
So with that being said, and I always say this as well, you need to have, no matter what you're doing in life, whether it's e-commerce, you're a realtor, or just a regular employee, you need to be having some way, somehow, a mentor. Whether it's, again, in real estate, e-commerce, life in general. Not only do you need a mentor, but you also need to be mentoring. Now you can be mentoring. You don't have to go out and look for clients. You can start with your kids. You can, if you're a 9-to-5 employee, start with the new employees that come in, but just make sure you're receiving it, from both ends, both getting and, not delegating, but, speaking too.
Yeah. It's a river, right? I mean,
exactly.
As people are pouring into you, you're pouring into other people. And that was something I learned from Myron Golden not too long ago. You've got to be the student more than the teacher. And I think it's probably one of the reasons I love martial arts, because, man, what's the best way to teach somebody else? Or I'm sorry, what's the best way to learn? Is by teaching somebody else, right? Because if you're trying to teach somebody how to get somebody into an armbar or anything else, and you ain't got it right, bro, and they're gonna flip it back on you, you're gonna learn real quick.
Yeah,
that you messed up. It was this moment he effed up.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to what I was saying earlier about purpose, it could be just that simple. Just be the example my daughter needs, or my son needs, or my spouse needs, or whatever, right? Simple purpose cuts through the noise, and it really turns confusion into clarity, because at the end of the day, when you've got perfect clarity, not the hows, right, but perfect clarity, that creates momentum.
I got this question from someone. I don't think it was in our mastermind, but anyways, she's like, how can I find my purpose?
Ooh.
Like, how do I find it? What is my purpose?
Mm.
And, ultimately your purpose comes from using your skills and passions to serve others. And like you said, you don't have to go act like Mother Teresa and go in the armpits of the world and help people. Start with your neighbor, or I don't know, just be kind. And these are God-given gifts and talents. And I want to kind of go into like a little story time, if you don't mind. But I was sick one time. I think I had the flu or whatever earlier this year. And my father had passed away in April. So I think it was like around May or June. So I was laying on the couch. I was sick as hell. And I was just flicking around on Netflix or Amazon Prime. And I found this NDE series, Near Death Experience, because obviously I was grieving at the time. And I wonder what, Dad was doing. So I literally laid there for about 4 hours, and I watched this series on near-death experiences. And do you know what 80% of those stories had in common?
I think I know, but go ahead.
It was God-given gifts and talents. So when these people died and they got up to God, and God was like, John, I gave you all these gifts and you didn't do anything with them. And John goes, my bad, God.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all these people came back and they knew that they had talents. Not only did they know that they had talents, but purpose. And everyone who came back from that afterlife experience is just fucking killing it now. They're
Yeah.
speaking, running nonprofits, writing books.
Yeah.
See, talent is not just running, jumping, and singing. Maybe
No.
you have a caring heart. Maybe you know how to talk to people, or hell,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you even know how to sew. It's really, finding your purpose in those God-given gifts and talents and
Mm.
utilizing them for the world.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Appreciate you sharing that story, man. I love how we're jamming a lot about purpose and how you find it. And whoever is watching is actually like, oh, Karl, Trevor, how do you find this purpose? First off, you need to join my 5-day challenge. Yes, shameless plug. But guys, it's only $47 investment for 5 days live with yours truly. Come on now. I mean, we spend more than that on a freaking dinner nowadays. So spend $50, hang out with me for 5 live days. You'll learn what motivates you. I hate the word motivates, but you'll learn exactly what drives you. You'll understand, you'll understand with perfect clarity what your purpose is and everything, and what's sabotaging your success. Like what is causing this invisible thermostat. But for the person that out there, to kind of build upon what Trevor's been talking about on purpose, here's a 3 easy way to find out what your purpose is. It's this easy, right? And I'll share this real briefly because I want you to come into my experience because you're going to get the whole context and framework. As simple as these 3 things. What excites you? What juices you, right? Notice I didn't say you have to be good at it or any of this, but what juices you? Right? If what juices you is saving animals, right, from being euthanized or being abused or whatever, hey, okay, that's cool, right? But it's got to be something that excites you, that juices you up. It doesn't rely on emotions, right? Well, speaking of emotions, what pain point is there that really pisses you off, right? And you're talking about a story. This was a story I was going to share earlier, and I kind of got off, sidetracked. um, but those 2 things, I shared the third one. Well, the third one, you just kind of come into my 5-day experience. But understanding that will help you identify your purpose. It's not anything that has to make you money, right? It doesn't have to be a business. It doesn't have to be any of that. It just simply is what excites you. Like what deep down is like, man, there's this problem I need to solve. I kind of revealed the third one. But what is the problem that needs to be resolved? Right? Let me share this little story and we'll kind of close this up because we are way over and I do have a call after this. But I'll share a perfect story that really hit home, not hit home, but really kind of brought a tear to my eye. I was doing an in-person event with my client. It was a VIP day. And this guy owns an agency, very successful agency. And this is a guy who is like, Karl, I've got everything we need. Our home is paid for. We've got everything we need financially. He's like, but man, I'm having a hard time being motivated to show up in my business. It runs essentially on its own. My daily presence isn't required, but I don't like how I'm showing up. I need to figure out how I can get more motivated. He kept saying the word motivated, right? So we start to talk for a little bit. I really want to understand what's driving him, what his gifts are, what his talents are, and so forth. So okay, cool. I appreciate you sharing it. Talked about his business. He loves business. Like he loves creating systems. He loves business, right? So I asked him, so what fulfills you? What excites you? What pisses you off? Like what are some things that really just moves you? Like if you completed that one thing, whether it's a daily task or whatever, it would actually start to bring a tear to your eye because it made you feel that good. If you gave a waitress $1,000 because you knew it would change her freaking life, how would that make you feel? If you rescued 100 dogs from being euthanized, how would that make you feel? Like these are the type of moments I'm talking about here, right? If you're able to stand in front of 10 women who had a same history as you and you were able to help them, to speak life in them, to see that there is hope for their lives, How would that make you feel? Will that bring a tear to your eye? Those are the moments I'm talking about. So as I walk through this exercise with him, he's like, Karl, man, I really, I saw this documentary about traffic, kids, and it really moved me. He talked about how, um, how kids are just being trafficked, or they're sitting inside containers. And if anybody's seen the movie or has not seen the movie, holy smokes, I can't remember. It was done by 2 or 3 years ago from Angel Studios. I can't remember the name of the movie now. Jeez, it's about child trafficking. True story. Um, Fudge Nuggets. If I remember, I'll put in the link in the comments, or I'll put the name of the movie in the comments. Um, but nonetheless, irrelevant for a moment. We're walking through this like, man, I really love being a part of that. I want to help solve that problem, right? And so we're like, okay, cool. So as we dive down in deeper in this, he's like, it really, for him, we're the kids in Nepal. We're kind of niching down for a little bit. He's like, I really love, be part of that experience. So we went through that, and he loved being part of a movement to help free kids from the trafficking, from being exposed in this environment. Now, does that mean he needed to quit his business to be part of that mission? No. It just meant that he now found his like, oh, that excites me. Now I'm going to grind harder in my business so that I can fund more of these activities, so I can be part of more of these missions. And he started thinking big, like, dude, I want to be able to create a foundation that donates $100 million by the time I leave this Blue Marble, that has donated over $100 million to help traffic kids in this area. Like, as we started to walk through this, I could see some tear go through his eyes. I started to get, you talk about two, burly dudes, getting all teary eyed, But that's a very, very real exercise for all of us to walk through, right? Notice I didn't say that he had to quit his business area and go do this for money. No, it now encouraged him to build his business, right? Because he loves business, he loves building systems, but that ceiling's been hit. Now that ceiling's been way, way increased, so that he can do all these things. So, anyways, I hope that helps, guys. Man, we are like a quarter after, and I do have to go here in a bit. But guys, one thing we don't have time for on this live. I'll do it on the next live. But one of the things I love to do is to bring up Q&A questions, right? Either inside of the comments, or if you're not comfortable asking in the comments, email them, right? My email's on the display, karlxsuccess@with karl.com. Email them. Trevor and I will jam through it, give our perspectives of it. If you want to remain anonymous, totally cool, understand that. But shoot us your questions. Anything you have. I'm an open book. I like to think Trevor as well, because I feel that whatever you can learn from me, it can help you. But email your questions, and if there's relevance, we'll definitely hit on it. So, Trevor, man, is there anything you want to add before we close this up?
No, I think you covered everything as usual.
We covered everything. Yeah. Honestly, I think there was more content that I wanted, but it was just more of like, well, if we get bored,
yeah,
and we go through some of this stuff that fast, there's more stuff we can cover. So we're not looking at each other's eyes for the next 45 minutes or 30 minutes.
I think me and you, we have that banter to where, we're not going to hear crickets.
That is true. So, all right, guys. Well, it's amazing. If those of you hung out with us for a little bit, thank you so much. Appreciate your support. I'd love to hear from you. We would love to hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
If this in any way, shape, or form helped you, resonated with you, you love what we said, just drop something in the comments. Like, Karl, drop one comment. Like, what was your takeaway from this? What did you learn? Or just put an emoji in there. Put a fire emoji. Because we love to hear from you. If we're impacting you, we're helping you, let us know. We'll keep doing more of these, and we'll get better at this. We might bring on some guests. We'll make you laugh. We'll probably make you cry. Probably do both. But if you got value from this, please don't forget to share it. Hit the notification bell. Subscribe. But so that's the wrap, guys. Again, thank you so much. Appreciate you all. See you guys next Monday at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Be blessed and unstoppable. Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.